Hello my gorgeous babes out there and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to do a good old palette ranking on all of the palettes I recently purchased. This gives me a chance to give you guys my final thoughts, but do it in a more fun ranking style. But before we get into this video, if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Bree and I am just a crazy lover of all things beauty, and I like to post a lot of fun and colorful makeup content. I like to do a lot of stuff on indie makeup, so if those are things you like to watch, then please hit that subscribe button and join this little family. I'd love to have you here. But with that being said, let's get into this video. Alright loves, welcome. I'm excited. I like doing ranking videos. This is fun. It gives me a chance to give you guys my final thoughts. And I've tried some really good palettes. So this ranking was quite difficult. And I think it's because I overthink everything and I keep switching things back and forth. Like, I don't know if that should go there. Should it really be there? Did that need to be there? Like, I do all of this and I don't know why when makeup's not that serious, but obviously I take it way too serious. But I am a lover of makeup. I love eyeshadow palettes. So I really think hard about my palettes and I really want to convey my thoughts clearly when I do this ranking. I don't want to just put things willy-nilly and then you don't get a thorough, good, well thought out review on them. But I rank these for various reasons. Like, it could be quality, it could be color story, cohesiveness, the likelihood that I'm going to use it, it could be price tag, experience. Like, I factor a bunch of things in here. So if something's at the bottom of the ranking, it doesn't always mean it's a poor quality palette. It just doesn't meet fully my makeup preferences. So I think I'm just going to dive into this ranking. I don't want to ramble too much because I tend to do that a lot. But the bottom of this ranking, which is number 15, which I am so shocked that this is number 15 because this is one of my most favorite brands. But this is the Natasha Denona Pastel Palette. I did do a review on this. I did 2 looks and I didn't have a very good experience. This palette, I think it's the $65 palette, and there's a bunch of shadows that weren't very good. I'm gonna be honest. Like, all the cream to powder ones felt really dry, and normally I really love the cream to powder formula, but this one just didn't have it. I tried to use this off camera, I tried to use this with other palettes, and I was always underwhelmed at how the look came out. I tried to use this with the Circle Local palette, and I just did not love it. Now, I think the metallics in here are really pretty. That's what really stands out in this palette, which is surprising because usually it's the mattes that I love so much, and I think the regular mattes are nice. But this is what it looks like. It's pretty. It's a nice little pastel palette, but I just expected more. For being such a pricey palette, I was thinking that this was going to be like the best pastel palette that I ever tried, and it definitely wasn't. So that is why it is number 15 on the ranking. And then the next palette, which is not a bad palette, but it's an expensive palette, and I don't think it's anything special. I think it's actually quite underwhelming. This is the Pat McGrath. I think this is the Mothership Rose Divine 2 palette from what I remember. Everything will be linked below in case you're wondering, like, any palettes I show you and where you can find them. But this one is like over $100, and I think it's nice, but it's not $100 nice, if that makes any sense. I think the quality is fine. The mattes are pigmented, they're blendable, the shades are really sparkly, but I feel like I could get this from any of my indie palettes, and I feel like a lot of my indie palettes have better metallics in them, and they're a lot less expensive. So I'll show you guys. They're pretty. There's like a little shifty multi-chrome, dual chrome action in here, and it is pretty. It's this one that has like a pink to green shift. But I have a lot of these shadows in indie palettes, and they're like maybe half the price, a third the price. So I just don't think this is that special. That's really why it's where it's at. No problems with the quality. It's just not worth the price. And I don't know why people hype Pat McGrath eyeshadows up so much. I love their complexion products. I love like their cheek, blush, you know, all of those things. But the eyeshadow palettes, to me, are not where it's at. So then the next palette in the ranking, which is number 13. And this is more because this is not a color story that I reached for. I think the quality is really nice. But this is a very neutral palette. But I do think it's nice. I'm only ranking it where it is because I have to. But overall, I do think that this is a nice neutral palette. This is the Nabla Read. I think it's called Read My Mind. Yeah, Read My Mind palette. And I actually have reached for this quite a bit, especially like when I'm doing my makeup for work. lately I've been kind of lazy and doing more neutral looks. And I've actually reached for this a lot. Like I've used like the different quads. It's very easy. Like when I'm in a rush and I just want to slap a makeup look together, this is like the perfect palette because you don't have to think about it. Like the quads are perfect. The setup is easy. And lately I just been wearing a lot of neutrals because I'm a lazy bitch and I don't want to think about my makeup in the morning. I've been pretty much waking up at the very last minute to get ready. I'm still adjusting to going back into the office like regularly. So that's why I've been wearing a lot of neutrals. The quality is really nice, but at the end of the day, I love color. I like to be bright. I like to be extra with my shadows. And this is not a palette I'm going to reach for as much as I would with a colorful palette. That is the only reason why it's at the bottom, but I still think it's really nice. And Nabla is a really good brand. It's one of my favorite indie brands, so I will always love them. So then the next ones are two palettes, and they're also lower because they're very neutral, but I rank these higher because I realized I actually use these more than the Nabla ones. These are the Kaleidos palettes from their Smoky Nostalgia collection. So the Black Jasmine and the Cold Brew one. And when I'm just needing like a neutral in the crease, or I'm needing like a black shade, I reach for both of these. And the mattes in here are so pigmented, they're so blendable. And then the two sparkly shades, like this one and this one, they're so sparkly, they're beautiful on the lids. This one is beautiful for the inner corner, and I tend to reach for cool tone neutrals if I'm using neutrals, so I use this Cold Brew one a lot. Like I'm surprised at how much I reach for this palette to use with other palettes. And this one, the black, I mean, this is one of the most pigmented black mattes I have ever used. So if I want a really smokeable look and there is no black in that palette, I will reach for this. Or if I want something super intense, like super black, this is the one I reach for. So the quality is excellent. They're just very neutral and not something I'm gonna reach for over a colorful palette. So the next palette, which is at number 11, and I enjoyed this palette. It's not a bad palette. It's just not my favorite formula when it comes to eyeshadows, but this is the Lois Cosmetics Meet Me in Midnight. I was able to create a lot of beautiful looks with this, and I did enjoy it. Like I did a review on it. I thought they were overall a good palette, but you'll see there's a lot of even like better palettes that I'm about to show you. But the mattes are more on the buildable end. They're not super pigmented. You kind of have to layer them up. And then the metallics are very creamy, almost on the oily side. So I feel like if you layer it up too much on the lids, they start to look textured and like thick on the lids because it has that more emollient, oily texture to them. They're beautiful, especially like when you swatch them, they look absolutely stunning in a swatch. But on the lids, they can easily get too much, like too thick. It's kind of weird, but that's just what I've noticed with formulas that are a little bit more emollient and almost have like that oil cream feel to them. I don't know if that makes any sense, but if you've had experience using different metallics, you probably know what I'm talking about. But the color story is what I really love on it. And I mean, it's still usable. You can build up the shadows. I just don't think it's as good as other palettes I've tried in my collection. I still enjoy it though. It's not a bad palette. It just doesn't meet my preferences totally when it comes to the type of eyeshadows that I like to use. Then the next one in the ranking is the Beauty Bay Berries palette. This was the 16 color palette. They had a bunch of different versions of this. I think they had a 9-pan palette version, and then they had like an even bigger version. Now, the reason why this is a little lower is because I don't wear, I guess, pinks and stuff like this that often than I would reach for like more cool tone shadows, but the quality was actually really nice in this palette, and I was surprised because I think this palette is maybe like $12 or no, $11. These are super affordable and they're always going on sale on Beauty Bay. This is the Beauty Bay brand. And I think it's beautiful. I like the variation. Now, for being a very pink berry palette, they have good options in here to like little light pink ones, more plummy ones, more like brighter pink. So I feel like you can get different looks out of this. It's just I don't reach for this as much as I would for like blues or greens or purples, but the quality is really nice. It's really more of the color story. I just don't see myself reaching for this as often as the other ones. Then the next one is from Lethal Cosmetics, and this is the Night Flower palette. I actually thought this was really nice. I did a review on this one as well. I created a couple looks, and I thought overall the formula was nice. They're more of a buildable formula, like the mattes, you kind of have to layer them up to get them really pigmented, but I thought the metallics were really pretty and sparkly. They have ones that have shifts to them, and I thought it was nice. If you like cool tones and like purples like this, you would probably like this palette. It's just not my #1 formula. I like super pigmented mattes. I like super intense foiled metallics, and these are not like that. Like the mattes are a little bit more, sheer. You gotta build them up. The metallics are pretty and sparkly, but they're not special in any way. But I do overall think that this was a nice one, and this was one of my favorite palettes so far that I've tried from Lethal Cosmetics. So this is kind of in the middle. It's a little lower, but it's not bad by any means. So the next one in the ranking, which is number 8, and this is the Nomad Cosmetics Paradise Island palette. Now, I think Nomad has a nice formula. They're just not my perfect formula because their mattes are more on the buildable end, so you have to build them up, and I love pigmented mattes. Like I've told you guys that many times if you've been watching my videos, but I think it's fun. It's colorful, it's bright, it's happy, it's cheery, it's very summery. But overall, it leans more mid-tone and light. Like, there's just not enough depth in this palette. I wish that they would include darker mattes in their palettes. And I feel like overall, that's a recurring theme with most Nomad palettes, is that they're lacking depth. I want my looks to get more dark. I like doing very smoky, colorful looks. And I feel like these two darker mattes are just not dark enough because they're not as like super pigmented as like other shadows that I've used. They're more on that buildable side. So I feel like you can never get them truly as deep as they like look in the pan. But the quality is nice. I enjoyed it. I've created a lot of fun, colorful looks. So that's why it's like in the middle for me. And I do enjoy Nomad. I love the brand. I love what they do and represent. I love how much they give back to different communities. So I keep buying their stuff because I just enjoy the brand overall. So then number 7 in the ranking is from Beauty Bay. This is their Midnight palette. This was their 16 color palettes, and I love this one a lot. I think the quality was amazing. It has a lot of depth in here, a lot of options to deepen up the look. There's variation. There's like purples, blues, plummy shades, and I just love my cool tones. I love that I can get so smoky with this palette, and this palette's $11. Like, how did a $11 palette perform so well? I did do a review on all of the Beauty Bay palettes, and you'll see I was very shocked by how well they performed. So this is a very nice cool tone purple blue palette. Like, if this is the colors you like, I highly recommend this one. The next palette in my ranking is from Sugar Drizzle Cosmetics, and I'm actually wearing a Sugar Drizzle palette on my eyes right now. They have really nice stuff, but this is the Gnome Chrome Halloween eyeshadow palette. It's really beautiful. They have some really intense metallics in here. It's an all shimmer metallic palette, which I don't mind because I prefer shimmers more than mattes, and some of them are just so beautiful. The only problem, well, not problem, the only thing with this one is that a lot of the shades in here also lean more satin, a little bit more muted. Now, if this was an all intense metallic palette, I think this would be ranked higher. I just don't like satins as much as I like, super foiled shadows. But the ones that are foiled are super foiled. Like this Haunted House one, the Witch Please one is super intense. You'll see, like, look at that. Whoo, look at how beautiful those are. But then, like, you go to, like, Squad Gnome. This one is very satiny. It's more muted. It's a little bit more lackluster. They're just not, this one's just not intense as the other two. So I think that's why it's not as high as I would have normally ranked a really beautiful, like, all metallic palette. But I still have enjoyed it, and the looks have been stunning that I've been able to create with that one. Then the next one in the ranking is from Beauty Bay. This is one of the 16 color palettes. This is the Earthy palette, and I'm very impressed with the formula in all of these. But this one is full of all my perfect green shades, which green is one of my most favorite colors to wear in the eyes. And it has a good range to more like grungy greens to cool tone ones. It has this little pastel pop in here. And I was just really impressed. For a $11 palette, the mattes performed really nicely. The metallics were super intense. So to get that for $11 is totally insane and blows my mind. And I'm just happy that I love these little palettes because I didn't love the Wilderness palette, but I had a way better experience with these 16 color eyeshadow palettes. So that is why this is like top 5. Like, I just love my greens, and the price is great and the quality is great as well. Then the next one is a all mainly green palette, but this is from Ace Beauté. This is the Tropical Vibes palette. I think they came out with this at the end of last year from what I remembered, but I finally picked it up. I finally used it, and this is like full of my grungy dreams right here. Like, all of these grungy tones, the yellows, the greens, the murky vibes, they really have upped their quality. Like, their mattes are more pigmented and blendable. They used to have very sheer mattes that you had to really try to build. They didn't always lay very well with one another, but then they reformulated all their eyeshadows, and now their mattes are pigmented, they're blendable, their metallics are extra creamy and beautiful. Like, all of them are great, and this just has really nice quality. And like, if I want to create a grungy eye look, I will go for this every time because it's so beautiful and the tones and everything. And that is why this is what, like, number 4 in the ranking. I never thought Ace Beauté would ever be that high on a ranking because before I just never really loved their formula, but they did such a good job with their new formula. So I'm very happy with that. I'm so happy I finally picked it up. Then number 3 on the ranking is from Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the Sleepover palette. Now this is a little bit more monochromatic. It's a very berry palette, but why this is ranked so high is because of the quality. I love Unearthly. They're one of my most favorite indie brands. Like, I never pass up any of their eyeshadow palettes because I've just had such a good experience with all of them. The mattes are pigmented, but they're blendable. The metallics in here are super sparkly and beautiful. I really love the Stay in shade. Like, if you want to do a super smoky plum look and use that all over the lid, it's so beautiful. Which I did do a look like that when I did my like first impressions on this palette. If you want to see me do a look with this, definitely check out that video. Quality is superb, excellent. If you're looking for a more like berry palette, this is it right here, the Sleepover palette. And then at number 2 on the ranking, and I really love this mainly for the metallics, but I also love who is behind this palette. This is the Heather Austin palette from Adept Cosmetics. I adore their metallics. They're so beautiful. They're so foiled and intense. And here's what the shades look like. They're just full of the most beautiful shifty shades. I love all of my Adept Cosmetics palettes because of their beautiful metallic formula. I'll swatch some of them. Some are more creamy, some are a little bit more flaky, but both of them are beautiful. No matter what formula it is, it's intense. Do you see that? Oh my gosh, I've loved all the looks I've been able to create with this palette, and I just think Heather Austin did an amazing job coming up with the color story and the shades that she wanted. And I do think that the mattes are really nice and pigmented and buildable, but really it's number 2 because of how much I love the metallics from Adept Cosmetics. So this is very high up there. I just love it so much. And then number 1 on my ranking, which you might already know which one is number 1, but this is the Heya palette from Oud Inside. This was a collab with Angelica Nikavest. And I'm just so impressed by this palette. The color story is so fun, so different. The mattes are pigmented but blendable. The metallics are very foiled and intense. And I was just shocked at how many different looks I was able to create with this. I did do a review on this. I created 3 very different looks. Then I also did a look on my Instagram, and that was also very different. So I'm just really impressed. Metallics are so beautiful and it's just so different. And this palette inspires me to create different looks, to do different color combos. It is very rare that an eyeshadow palette can inspire me because I've done so many looks. I have so many eyeshadow palettes. So if one can make me think out of the box, I'm just gonna love it. And I mean, it's it's just so good, okay? I really love this complete shade too. It's a metallic black, and it's very rare that you come across a metallic black that's just beautiful and intense and shiny, and it looks so beautiful all over the lid to make a very smoky look. So I was very happy with this. I think Angelica did a amazing job. I just think she's good at, like, you know, color stories and having an eye for different like formulas and makeup, because I also really loved her collab with Kaleido. So Angelica, you're doing a great job. Unzai, you're doing an amazing job. So that was the last palette in my ranking. Hopefully I was able to fully convey myself well enough for you to understand why these palettes were ranked where they are. But I do hope you enjoyed this ranking. Hopefully it was helpful in letting you know like how these palettes are and perform, and helped you like figure out if these were right for you if you haven't tried these and you've been wanting to. But you will have to let me know in the comments below, were you surprised by my ranking? Did they make sense? Like, give me all your thoughts. I would love to hear from all of y'all. And if you're new here and you enjoyed this video, then please hit that subscribe button. Join this little family. I would love to have you here. Also, don't forget to check out the description below. Like I said, I will have all the palettes linked where you can find them as long as they're still available. I will have all of my review videos linked if you want to see more on any of these palettes, a couple looks, see how they perform and do and stuff like that, then that will also be in the description. I will also have my contact and my social media platforms. I'm also on Instagram as Breezy Lifestyle and Breezy_beauty. So if you want to check me out over there, I would really, really love that. I would love for you to join my Instagram fam. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for being here, for watching this video, for supporting my channel, for being here. I just really love all of y'all so much, and I just hope you guys are all doing well wherever you are in the world. And I'm just sending you all so much light and love. But until next time, bye guys.